Friends, you must have heard Trump. He sounds very stressful. He sounds very angry and frustrated because he is in a very stressful dilemma. The war has reached a very critical stage. I'll explain in this episode what this is. But before that, please like and subscribe these videos. A lot of effort goes in and we need more subscribers. So please share whatever content you like, short or long form, with your friends or in your social circles. Trump is stressed because oil has crossed $100 a barrel. And this has many ramifications, which I'll explain. And there are only two ways to open up the Hormuz Strait, which is causing this spike in oil prices. Both the ways are extremely unpalatable for Trump. The first is to make an agreement with the Iranians. And the second is to escalate this conflict in order to try to open up the Hormuz Strait. Making an agreement has many problems. The first is that Iran has to agree. This is not at all clear that after having taken so much punishment, the Iranians will immediately agree. Because if the war were to stop right now, it is only the Iranians who would have taken heavy punishment and the GCC countries somewhat. Israel to a lesser extent, and America would go scot-free. That is, in a month or two, oil prices would come back to their normal level, around $65–70 a barrel for Brent. This would mean that the cost on America or Trump would be almost negligible, and he could again get ready in a few months to attack, as he had done 8 months ago. Making an agreement also has another problem. That is, Trump has to eat crow. He has to humble himself. And it leaves intact the Iranian regime, which means they can again hold the whole Middle East to hostage, certainly the GCC area, and can go ahead and do some further refining or maybe making a crude nuclear weapon with the 450 kilos roughly of highly enriched 60% enriched uranium that they already have. This would defeat the whole point of this war. And a wounded Iran would be more likely to make that dash. In fact, we now know through various articles in the New York Times and Axios that actually Khamenei, that is Mojtaba Khamenei, was not supposed to be elected. His father didn't want him to be elected. And in the contest, in the Assembly of Experts, which has 88 members, 2 other candidates were being proposed who were moderates. One was Sayyid Khomeini, the original Ayatollah Khomeini's grandson, who is a moderate. He was being supported by people like Pezeshkian and even, surprise, surprise, Larijani. The other moderate candidate was a former president called Khatami. But the Republican guards, who have a close relationship with Mojtaba Khamenei, because Mojtaba Khamenei had served in the Republican guards, he had fought in the Iran-Iraq war, and he has been closely associated with them. They know that he's a hardliner. His whole family has been killed, including his father, mother, wife, children. And therefore the Republican Guard knew he won't compromise easily. They pushed against the moderates. And many members of the Assembly of Experts were infuriated with Netanyahu and Trump that they had killed their supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. This anger also made them vote for Mojtaba, despite the fact that it was made clear that his own father didn't want it to be a family succession. So making an agreement with Iran involves the danger that a wounded Iran would not be easily amenable to American or Israeli terms, even though there is a moderate party within Iran which wants better relations with America, or at least not such hostile, aggressive relations. The second option that Trump has to open the Hormuz is escalation. This can be done in various ways. First, he will have to bring more ships in. This is why he has requested the European countries, China, etc., to volunteer, bring their ships in. But none of them have agreed, and rightly so, because there is great danger. Hormuz, at its narrowest point, is only 20 miles wide, but actually the channel within which deep oil tankers can travel is only about 2 miles wide. With the cliffs on the Iranian side and the caves being full of missiles, even speedboats hiding there, drones being available there, and the possibility of putting mines into the water. So far, Iran hasn't put in mines, because if they put in mines, then even their own ships will get blocked, because mines don't choose their targets. Usually ships have between 300 to 500–600 people on board. No country wants to risk that. In fact, the Americans themselves are not risking their own ships. Their own ships are outside in the Arabian Sea, not near Hormuz. So when the Americans themselves are not risking it, how can they expect others whom they have disparaged, humiliated for so many months since Trump has come to power, whom they did not consult, and that's why they said that this is not our war. Even ships won't be enough. In fact, ground forces will be required for opening up the Hormuz. That is why Americans have moved the 31st Marine Expeditionary Force from Japan, that is 2,500 Marines, because they want to occupy some of the islands around Hormuz. There are 3 or 4 islands, and they will try to maybe even occupy the coastline on the Iranian side. Because unless you send in ground troops, just by air you can't bomb those mountains, those caves. You can't get rid of all the missiles, drones. Maybe you will also have to occupy Kharg Island. The Iranians will welcome this because this will give them a chance to attack the ground forces and cause casualties on the American side. Trump's MAGA base and the general American public will not accept these casualties. He knows it. Not only that, the more it delays opening up Hormuz, that is, the longer it will take to bring down oil, which will mean that the stock market bubble, especially the AI bubble in the United States, which is dependent on low interest rates and low energy costs, can bust. Right now, the earnings of these AI companies is quite good, software companies. But if interest rates escalate and if investors begin to feel that this problem is not going to be solved quickly, they will start selling the stocks. If this bubble bursts, it can be a global financial crisis, not just in the US. And as you know, there is a midterm election coming up in November. I know it seems very far away right now. We are in March. But the first week of November will creep up before you can realize it. And Trump knows that. So Trump is stuck in this dilemma of whether to escalate and use force and risk the stock market, oil prices, elections, or to humble himself and make a deal with the Iranians, allowing the regime to a wounded regime to survive and possibly hold the whole area hostage again, maybe make a dash for nuclear weapons. This dilemma is frustrating him, and that's why you see this kind of behavior. So until next time, keep watching and please keep sharing.